To be able to edit a message inside of CometChat using the JavaScript SDK, you need to be able to do two main things. You need to be able to edit the message, and you need to listen for changes and edits so that you can display them for users. In this week's video, we're going to take a look at editing messages, so let's just get started right now. We'll start by heading over to the CometChat website, heading to developers and then to documentation. We're going to be using the JavaScript SDK. So let's head over to SDKs over here, and then let's select JavaScript for the web. Once we're here, we want to go to the left-hand menu and select messaging, expand that out, and then select to edit a message. Here we've got all our documentation that we'll be using today, which you can also refer back to if you get stuck at any point in time. I'll provide links in the description below to this documentation as well as the project files that we'll be using for this example today. Now, for editing messages, there's two main aspects. There is editing the message itself, which is a pretty straightforward task, as well as listening to events that happen when an edited message comes through. This is especially important when you're doing a real-time application because the listening events basically allow you to update in real time any messages that have been changed. Now, let's have a look at how we actually edit a message inside of CometChat. It's quite simple. There is a special method called edit message. This method basically takes in an object called the base message. This object is also a class that currently allows you to edit text messages and custom messages, though this might change in the future. Now, in order to edit messages, we need a message to edit. This seems pretty simple. We can create a brand new message, or we can pull up an existing message from an ID. Now in this example, I'm going to create a brand new Hello World message, and we'll use this as the template that we'll start to edit. For this, I'll need a receiver ID, which will be Adrian. I'll need the message text, which I'll put in as Hello World. I'll set the receiver type here using the CometChat.receiverType.user, and finally we'll create the text message, and this will be using the new space CometChat text message, passing in the receiver ID as well as the text message as well as the receiver type. With that done, we can now send this text message. To send it, we're going to pass in CometChat.sendMessage. We'll pass in the class that we've created here for the text message, and then we'll execute this. We'll receive back a message as a response, and this response will not just have the message, but it will also have something called the message ID, which we're going to be using as the main aspect to be able to identify and edit messages. So right now our text message class doesn't have an ID set. Whenever you're doing an edit message, you need to pass in the class of the text message. So you can either create a brand new one or use the existing one, which I'm doing here, but we need to set the ID. Since we received a response of the message ID, I'm going to plug that straight into here. After that, we need to make a change. For this, I'm thinking we'll just do a simple change where we set maybe the text to be something different. I'm going to set the text here to say new Hello World. And this will just be a small edit to our existing message. Now we can run the command edit message by running CometChat.editMessage, passing in the new object that we've edited, and we'll then get a response back from CometChat. This response will have the new updates to this message, and we can actually console log this out and view it later on in debugging to see exactly how this has changed. And this is basically editing messages. So let's open up the console now and have a look at this. Opening up the console, we can see that our new message has been sent. Here is the original message from Adrian that has the text Hello World, and you can see that this is working fine. If we open up the edit message, we can see it has the same ID that we previously had, but the text here has updated to new Hello World. This is perfect and what we expect. If we look a little bit deeper, we get to see a few other things, including these edited at and edited by values. The edited at value basically tells the timestamp of when it changed, and the edited by basically tells you which user changed this message. You're not limited to just editing text messages. You can also edit other things, such as tags. So you could pass in updated tags to the message, such as tag 1 and tag 2. To be able to update this, we simply call the text message and the method setTags. We pass in the updated tags in here, and we just run the edit message just like we did before. Now if we open up the debugging tools, we'll find that if we check the edited messages, we'll find that it now contains the new tags that we've defined. Now be aware that this will not add or remove tags, it will replace tags. So make sure that if you have existing tags for the message ID, you collect them and add them as part of the new updated tags. If you want to have a look at different types of things you can actually edit for your messages, you can console log these out with the word set. Here you'll get a list of different types of data elements that you can update, including things like the metadata, as well as the category and much more. By default, CometChat allows certain roles to edit a message. These roles include the message sender, where they can modify their own message in a one-on-one conversation as well as in a group conversation. But on top of that, if you have group conversations, the group owner as well as the group modifier can also edit or modify messages within the group. Now it's time to take a look at real-time message edit events, because this is quite important if, for example, you're building an application and you need to see if a recipient or someone has edited their message while the application is running so that you can handle those inside of the UI. The way this works is basically like a listener, and this listener uses the message listener class and uses the method onMessageEdited, which gives you a response back of the message itself. Then you can handle this message however you need inside of your application. Let's see what this looks like creating it inside of our application so far. Here inside VS Code, I'm going to create a new section called the Create Real-Time Message Edits with the Event Listener. We'll create a new variable here called Listener ID. This can be anything you want, so I'm going to create the Adrian_listener as the ID here. Then we're going to call CometChat.addMessageListener. In here, we want to pass two main things. The first is the listener ID, which we've just created, and the second is a new class. This class is the CometChat.messageListener class. And in here, we're going to pass in the response back that we want to have when we basically get a message that has been edited. So we'll call onMessageEdited, we'll pull out the message as a variable, and then we'll just console log it out. Of course, if you have your own UI, you could update the state of that UI. I'll call this console log message listen for edit and print out the message variable. Now let's test this out. I'm going to do this by opening up the REST API and causing a edit to an existing message that we have. I've got the ID of an existing message and I've populated this form out and I've added a new tag to it. This tag just says help. Let's try this out. This has worked, triggering the message listener, and we can see the ID of 309 as well as the updated tag of help. Finally, let's take a look at missed message edit events. Basically, what happens if an application is in offline and you don't know that there was edits to a message while the application was not running? In that case, we're going to need to retrieve a list of the previous messages and have a look through them. They're going to come with additional values for edited at as well as edited by, which we can identify if they've changed. On top of that, if we, for example, pull in a list of 100 conversations, we can see the message ID that was edited. It'll also come with action objects that come with values of action, action on, and action by that help better identify this. Let's have a look at this in practice. If we open up VS Code, we can pull up the last 50 messages that we've just been conveying through. We're going to set the limit here to 50. And what I want to do is identify ones that have been fetched and have changed. Let's open this up in the Chrome debugging tools, and we're going to get a list of them over here. Now this list of 50, we've actually been modifying quite a lot of them near the bottom here. So I'm going to pull out this last one here, and we can see this one hasn't been modified, but this one before that has. We can see the value here, action edited, with action by, allowing us to see the person who changed this, being myself, and the action for as well as the action on here. You can utilize these however you need in terms of your own UI, but this gives you a better idea of how it all works. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more, check out the documentation below. Otherwise, next week, we're going to start deleting messages. If you want to find out more, check out that video up here. Awesome.